On the night of March 14th, 2023, Emily Hartwell sent her mother a goodnight text at 10:47 p.m. By 6 a.m. the next morning, her bed was empty. Her phone was gone. Her car was still in the driveway. And nobody had heard a single sound. This is the story of a small town in Ohio that was about to discover something it wasn't prepared for. Emily Hartwell was 24 years old. She lived with her parents in Maplewood, Ohio, a quiet town of just 8,000 people. She worked as a nurse's assistant at a local clinic. Her colleagues described her as warm, reliable, and never late. She had no history of mental illness, no history of running away, no conflicts with anyone. But like every missing person case, the surface of someone's life rarely tells the whole story. The last person to see Emily was her neighbor, Daniel Marsh, who saw her through the kitchen window around 10:30 p.m., making tea. Everything looked completely normal. Let's reconstruct Emily's final hours before she vanished. At 8:15 p.m., she finished her dinner and watched TV with her parents. At 9:40 p.m., she went upstairs to her room, saying she was tired. At 10:22 p.m., her phone records show she called someone. The call lasted exactly 4 minutes and 18 seconds. At 10:47 p.m., she texted her mother, "Good night, Mom, love you." At 11:03 p.m., her bedroom light went off, and then ... nothing. When her mother knocked on her door at 6:15 a.m. to wake her for work, the room was empty. The bed had been slept in. Her shoes were missing, but her wallet, her keys, her purse, all still there. She had left with nothing. That phone call at 10:22 p.m. Investigators would later call it the most important clue in the entire case. The Maplewood Police Department launched a missing persons investigation within 12 hours. They pulled Emily's phone records and discovered that the 10:22 p.m. call was made to an unregistered burner phone. That number had only ever received calls from Emily and had never made a single outgoing call. Detectives began questioning everyone in Emily's life. Her co-workers said she had seemed distracted in the days before she vanished. Anxious even. One colleague recalled Emily saying, "I feel like I'm being watched." Then investigators found something that changed everything. In Emily's bedroom closet, hidden inside a shoebox, was a folded piece of paper. On it were 7 words written in her own handwriting. "If something happens to me, ask Marcus." Marcus June was Emily's ex. They had broken up 8 months earlier under circumstances that were never fully explained. When detectives brought Marcus in for questioning, he had an alibi. He was at a bar until 2 a.m., confirmed by security footage and 6 witnesses. So who was Marcus protecting? And why had Emily written that note and hidden it, as if she already knew she was in danger? 3 weeks into the investigation, Emily was found. She was alive. She was discovered staying at a motel 40 miles away, under a false name, paying in cash. But what she told investigators shocked the entire town of Maplewood. Emily had disappeared on purpose. She had been receiving threats for 6 weeks from someone who knew intimate details about her life, details that only someone very close to her could know. The threatening messages told her to stop asking questions about a specific incident, an incident involving a patient death at the clinic where she worked. Emily had uncovered evidence that a supervisor had falsified medication records, a cover-up that had contributed to a patient's overdose death. She had been gathering proof quietly, afraid to go to the police because she didn't know who she could trust. The 4-minute phone call the night she vanished. She had called a journalist. She didn't run away in fear. She ran away to be safe, while the story came out. The note about Marcus, he was the one person helping her from the outside, the one person she trusted completely. In the weeks that followed, the truth unraveled quickly. The clinic supervisor, Robert Gage, was arrested on charges of falsifying medical records, obstruction of justice, and criminal harassment. The threatening messages had been traced back to a second phone registered to a fake name, but purchased at a store with security cameras. Robert Galley was on that footage. Emily testified in court for 3 days. She was calm, precise, and devastating in her account. Robert Galley was convicted on all charges. He was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. The patient who had died, Thomas Webb, finally had his story told. His family, who had been told for 2 years that his death was natural, filed a wrongful death lawsuit. Emily returned to Maplewood. She no longer works in healthcare. She now advocates for whistleblower protection laws and is studying to become an attorney. Emily Hartwell disappeared not because she was a victim, but because she refused to stay silent. She made a calculated, terrifying, and ultimately brave decision to sacrifice her own safety to expose a truth. A truth that powerful people wanted buried. The real question this case leaves us with is, now where did she go? It's how many others stay silent because they're too afraid to do what Emily did. If you found this case as compelling as I did, subscribe to One Case Story. Every week, one case, one story, one truth. And drop a comment below. Do you think Emily made the right decision, or should she have gone to the police from the beginning? I'll see you in the next case.